What's going on, squad? Welcome to Talkin Bout Skiing. If you have viewed the live streams in the past, it's kind of like an extension of a live stream, kind of just like an informal video where I guess I'm just gonna kind of talk about some of my own ski stuff, maybe some industry news, and mostly kind of open up this as a discussion to you guys, whether it's you want to send me clips to watch or you have a question or a topic, and kind of just create a platform for that. I feel like I've already kind of done that, but you know, if for nothing else, just maybe get people excited for the ski season coming up, which is at this point probably in about like 6 weeks. I would say really by Halloween is typically when places in Colorado start to open up, and then really around Thanksgiving is usually when most places in Utah and California are open, and then really by that first week of December, most ski resorts all over the country are open. So we're kind of in that, you know, final countdown, and so I just decided to come up with a little topic here that may be a little bit more sustainable for myself, and also something that can be a little bit more recurring as different events unfold. So I think the first order of business is just new gear, new skis. I'm gonna kind of make a full video on this sort of stuff, but I did end up getting a few new pairs of skis. I got 2 new pairs of skis. I'm letting 2 pairs go, so kind of just a net zero on that. But one of these skis is right here. It is the new Armada White Walker. Really the same thing that I had last year, which is behind me, but I used the crap out of them. They're so beat up now. And so I'm just gonna utilize those. 192 in length, 116 underfoot was really my most used ski. So I ended up picking that up. And then I got another ski that's a little bit more narrow that I'm kind of excited, but also nervous to use and see how I like it. So a few new twigs for the year. I'm still kind of torn on a third, but for right now, that's what I have. And then I did end up getting a new ski suit. I love the color. I think it'll kind of really look well for video and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, nothing like super crazy. I'm kind of, as the years have went on, I've actually dwindled down my quiver, and I'm kind of in that zone of a 121, a 116, and then something a little bit more groomer friendly, you could say. But then the next question is boots. I've used my Salomon S Pro Alpha 120s for 2 seasons now, probably have about 100 days on them. Kind of got them all custom fitted and things like that. And I really like the boot now, but I'm just wondering, maybe I should look into getting a new boot. Still with that Salomon line, I'm thinking about maybe going to a 130 flex, and now they make a dual BOA. And I'm curious, like I want to do the BOA, but I'm also a little bit timid. My thought was, if those give me trouble on the break-in, I could still use my current boots, kind of give my feet a break as I'm working those new boots in. But yeah, just something I was thinking about. Do I go to the 130 flex dual BOA? The Salomon Supra is a little bit wider last, so ski boots have, in addition to like the actual boot sole length, there's actually a width that's usually found on the bottom of the boot. And the Alpha is the narrowest one of the lineup, and the BOA, or the Supra, is a little bit wider. So maybe it'll help with my, help fit a little bit better. But that's just something I was just kind of thinking about with my boots. And then a cool new development is I got a complimentary Epic Pass. It's the first year I ever received a free Epic or Icon Pass for that matter. Park City Mountain actually reached out to me and, just appreciate the content that I share, and basically was like, hey, do you want to have a little bit more of a set deliverable? I think I have to give them 3 Instagram posts per season, like December, January, and February. And in addition, they gave me a full complimentary Epic Pass. So that's nice, because those are obviously $800,000. So while there's not like really any like stipulations, not that I can't ski Icon resorts, there's, it seems like a pretty loose contract and deliverable, but just something exciting on my end, getting a free pass like that. But obviously with my home mountain really being Park City, I ski Epic, and Vail own mountains a lot. So that was pretty cool. So now I just got to figure out how I can, what I got to do with the Icon Pass, and yeah, maybe if there's something there as well. But anyways, at least we will have an Epic Pass for the year. So some ski trips that I have planned is Canada. That's like my main trip that's already planned mid-February. The plan is to go up to Golden again and ski places like Kicking Horse, Lake Louise, Revy, maybe some of the other mountains kind of in that area. That's kind of doable in a day trip. So we are kind of slated to have a fun crew again going up there. That was a lot of fun last year as well. So a goal would be like some sort of Japan trip or an international trip. I think would be a really cool element to add to the channel. But other than that, I don't really have much planned. That's a question I get a lot. So, and then just gonna kind of take things as we roll this season and see what opportunities come up and what makes sense for us to travel and go do. So really excited about that, because Kicking Horse it kind of took my #1 ski resort, surpassing Snowbird. I mean, it's like tit for tat, but yeah, that place is, and really all those mountains up there in the BC Alberta zone are just really, really fun and challenging to ski. So I kind of touched on a lot of this stuff in the last live stream, but I figured again, to just put it out. And yeah, if you guys have any ideas or questions or stuff like that. And then just some self stuff. You know, I have the Stoke Squad goggles by Zipline still available. That's all rolling out again this year. So we came out with those, I think, at the end of last year. And I was really blown away by the amount of people who purchased the goggles and are rocking them on the mountain. So they come in white, which is the ones that I usually use, but also black, and a bunch of different magnetic lenses as well. So those are still available. And then I also have stickers and merchandise, kind of like the flag and hoodies and hats and stuff like that, if you want to just support the channel. And what we do here is just kind of like a self-funded ski community in a sense. So I think one of the more exciting news, especially in the Utah area, is the whole Expanded Excellence project at Deer Valley. If you guys aren't aware, Deer Valley essentially acquired all this land right next to it. There was kind of going to be another mountain that was going to butt up next to it, but instead Deer Valley was essentially like, let us, I believe, lease it, kind of just acquire the management, and let's just double our size. So that has been a huge investment for Deer Valley. They're adding a whole new gondola that I think is supposed to be ready this year. I think it's like the East Village Express gondola, linking the new East Village to Park Peak. And I think this will give us more lifts and more runs that will be accessible this year. So last year there was just kind of some base lifts with a few sort of cruiser runs back to the bottom, but just every time I drive past it, the amount of work they're doing, I think we're gonna get more skiable terrain this year with the Expanded Excellence project continuing still for more years to come. But we're getting, you know, increased infrastructure in different lodges, employee housing. Deer Valley's putting a lot of money into, because they need the workers to actually employ to have this stuff run. They're doing a lot with employee housing, which is really cool. And just, yeah, more investments all across the board in terms of their lodging, their employees and things like that. But I was also surprised that there's other mountains in Utah that are also really investing heavily in their infrastructure in the mountain as a whole. And the first one that comes to mind is Powder Mountain. And they're replacing some of their older, slower lifts with some high-speed quads, just to help get people up the mountain, reduce the time that you're waiting in line on the lift, and ultimately giving you more skiing. So from what I know, the Paradise and the Timberline lifts are getting upgraded. Paradise is a fun chair. It's kind of like the main area, in my opinion, for just some really fun skiing. However, that lift was so slow. Like, I think it's over 15 minutes. And so to kind of have that sped up, I'm always a fan of that. But that was also kind of the nature of going to Pall Mall, was the fact that lifts were a little bit more slow, and just like the vibe in general was just a little bit less fast paced. So, you know, I'm sure not everyone's gonna be stoked on that, but the point is you're gonna be able to ski more, get more turns in. And then the whole Lightning Ridge area, this was a cat skiing zone where you could basically pay 20 bucks, take a cat up. I'm pretty sure they're putting a lift up there. So now you're gonna be able to ski that same terrain with a lift. Again, two sides to this, but I think the TLDR of a lot of this is Utah is kind of making a push to give us more advanced and expert skiing terrain accessible on the mountains. So then lastly was SNOWBASIN, also doing a bunch of infrastructure improvements. And the one that I'm the most stoked for is the RFID. If you've been to SNOWBASIN, every time you come to a lift, you have to take your pass out of the pocket. And it seems like in this day and age, that's such an ancient thing where you're so used to just keeping your pass in your jacket and swiping and going. So now they're apparently adding RFID technology, I hope, into everywhere. They're kind of updating and refreshing their gondola cabins, because at this point it's a little bit dated. And they're replacing the Becker chairlift, which is a 1986 fixed grip triple. So they're replacing this with a high-speed quad, which is set to actually double the uphill capacity for that area. And so again, just more skiing, less waiting around. And I think another good thing that Snowbasin is doing is investing in their parking lot and skier movement facilitation services. Sometimes the parking is a little bit wonky at Snowbasin because there's so many different like lots, it feels like, and you know, you could be stuck way down here, then you got to take a shuttle up and around, and then there's another lot up here. So curious to see what they do. I don't really know the details on it, but I think everything that I mentioned is really supposed to be set in motion for this upcoming season and or pretty much released throughout the year. So just cool to see more infrastructure and yeah, more money coming in to help make skiing because it's gotten more popular. The Rocky Mountains have seen just record visitation over the years. So using this to sort of address maybe some of these just ease of life problems, I think kind of curious to see how it goes. So before we wrap up, one thing that I want to add into this little segment is just a raw POV run that I liked throughout the years. So enjoyed this one from Kicking Horse off of, I believe this was Redemption or CPR Ridge, maybe CPR Ridge, and then to the chair, but nonetheless some fast chalk with the 192 White Walker behind me.
That was fun. Yowza.
If you have any clips, we used to do this all the time with the live streams. You can submit them to my email, send me a DM on Instagram, and I'd love to add maybe some of this into some of these episodes, whether it's a ski clip, just whatever. It really doesn't have to be ski related, but obviously most people are here to watch skiing. So that'd be cool to throw those in there. If you had any just questions about skiing or life or anything like that, I'm happy to talk about them. That's all I have for the first, I don't even really want to call this an episode, but just a little video about myself talking about skiing.